what's up everyone? I know I'm a bit late to these Saturday night's main event predictions this time around, but like this show didn't really capture my attention like I thought it was going to. That's not to say it was a bad show by any means. Actually, I think it was probably the best Saturday night's main event. Not so much match-wise, but like just story-wise, the bigger picture out of all the Saturday night's main events that have happened since it got, reintroduced. With that being said, it didn't come without its flaws. Elephant in the room being the freaking commercials. Now, I know it's a televised TV show. I know it's basically a Monday Night Raw with bigger story implications and just bigger matches. But like the commercials really took me out of the wrestling. It really did. And like I couldn't get invested in the matches that were going on, a lot of them, because of the fact that the commercials just took you right out of the vibe of it. The commercials took you right out. You could be watching, Jey Uso and Logan Paul go at it, and then next thing you know, you see a Burger King commercial. It was very bad. The commercials were really like overused. It's not like the commercials were used like in between the matches either. They were literally used 2 times per match. And some of the matches were not even 5 minutes. Some of them couldn't even get rated on Cage Match. It was really bad. The commercials were really bad. However, there were some good things to this show. As I mentioned before, the bigger story of all of these matches was a very big plus. But another big plus that I feel like really added to the show and made it at the top of my list of the Saturday night's main events was the Tampa crowd. The crowd was absolutely incredible, especially with the matches they got. Now, granted, they didn't experience the commercials like the people at home did, but they really made the matches feel special. Even the ones that I wasn't really as hyped about, the crowd like deserves a prop. They really do, because they added so much to this Saturday night's main event. And it seems like the crowds have been doing a lot better lately ever since WrestleMania 41. Maybe WrestleMania 41 was a wake-up call to be like, you guys got to step it up. You guys got to step up your game. But yeah, that's all the intro stuff out of the way. Let's get right into my review of this entire show and where I think the storylines could head going into the future for each competitor in the match. Starting with the opening match, we have Sami Zayn and CM Punk taking on Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. As soon as this match got announced that it was opening the show, I knew something big was about to happen. Pun intended, because we got the introduction of our third member for the heel faction in Bronson Reed. Big Bronson Reed, he returned from injury after he sustained an ankle injury, I believe, War Games last year, and he's now teaming with 2 of the best heels in the business in Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. But before we dive more into that, let's talk about the match itself, right? We had CM Punk and Sami Zayn, 2 good guys going against 2 bad guys. Basically, 2 biggest baby faces going against the 2 biggest heels at the moment. And they clashed in a tag team match. And it was a very generic tag team match. Nothing special happened. It was a match that you could skip because really, like, nothing crazy happened at all. The only part you should really watch if you want to get in the wave of what's happening on Monday Night Raw would be the ending when Bronson Reed kind of attacks CM Punk on the side, allowing Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker to pick up the W. The only thing I could really think of from this match other than that is, the nice little callback to Sabu, who unfortunately passed away. Sami Zayn did a nice little callback there, and then CM Punk hitting a code red, which was pretty crazy. But other than that, like, there was really nothing crazy happening in that match whatsoever. It wasn't the worst match. I'll talk about the worst match, trust me. I really enjoy the Bronson Reed addition to this heel faction because, like, even though I didn't predict him in my prediction videos, he's one of those guys that was on top of a lot of people's lists. And I didn't see the vision at first, but after watching Monday Night Raw, I'm like, okay, maybe Bronson Reed isn't such a bad choice after all. Now, I'm curious to see where they take the Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins dynamic, because if you guys know, they feuded back last summer. Bronson Reed quite literally almost killed Seth Rollins and made him cough up blood with like 7 tsunamis. It was kind of crazy. But now that Bronson Reed is working under the wing of Seth Rollins, I'm curious to see how that plays out. And just in general, I'm curious to see how this whole heel faction with Paul Heyman plays out, That also brings me to my next point. I believe there could be a 4th member to this faction. I know I may sound a little greedy here, but like, what's the harm in one more? I don't know. I feel like we're not done yet for that part. But that's way in the future. I'm not even going to predict that. What I will predict is who I think the 3rd member will be in the CM Punk and Sami Zayn team up, and the obvious answer would be Jey Uso. But we'll talk about his future in a little bit. I feel like the best person to join this faction with CM Punk and Sami Zayn would be Roman Reigns, I feel like Roman Reigns is the most obvious choice to join CM Punk and Sami Zayn. Maybe he returns at Money in the Bank and costs Seth Rollins the Money in the Bank briefcase, and that kind of sets up a 3-way tag between Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, and CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed. So that's where I see all those guys heading into the near future. They just keep feuding with each other. But overall, it was a good match. Next up, we got by far the worst match of the entire card. Zelina Vega versus Chelsea Green for the Women's United States Championship match. This is the definition of don't book things last minute. This is example A on why you shouldn't do that. It was filled with botches. The match was not interesting. I couldn't get behind it because, yet again, the commercials, right? And going back on the tag team match, the commercials really took me out of that match as well, which definitely lowered my rating for it. But going back to the Women's United States Championship match, the commercials once again ruined it. Ruined what any momentum it did have. But like, even without commercials, I really couldn't get behind this match due to the fact that there was no story behind it whatsoever. It's just Chelsea Green getting a rematch because why not? Which was a bit disappointing. Chelsea Green and Zelina Vega do deserve better, but it was just, I mean, Zelina Vega botched to 619 and Chelsea Green broke her nose. It was just, all around it was bad. It was a bad match. The crowd was by far the least invested in this match, and rightfully so, because again, there was no story behind it whatsoever. And it feels like WWE added it because they realized there were no women's matches on the card whatsoever. Now, granted, there isn't really much people in the Women's United States Championship mid-card picture other than Zelina Vega and Chelsea Green. However, let's go into the future of these two because I feel like Chelsea Green, she could still potentially be involved in the Women's United States Championship picture, but like not like as a number one contender. I feel like the person to be a number one contender for this Women's United States Championship and potentially even win it is Julia, right? She was a NXT Women's Champion right when she got into the company, and her winning the Women's United States Championship is definitely possible because the holder is kind of, not to be rude, a jobber. The holder is a jobber, is not a believable champion. Julia, however, is a believable champion. She had a nice little feud with Roxanne Perez and Rhea Ripley and Io Sky over on Raw. She has that main roster experience, so now, you know, put it to the test and see how well she does on the main roster as a champion, and what better way to test her skills than give her the mid-card Women's Championship over on SmackDown, especially because of how low in talent this Women's United States Championship picture has. So that's where I see Zelina Vega going next, her feuding with Julia, and Chelsea Green just going back to maybe being in the picture as well, but, you know, not as a number one contender. Next up, we got Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest in a steel cage match, and honestly, I predicted this was going to steal the show, and lo and behold, this thing stole the show, okay? The hatred these two have for each other goes back all the way to the Royal Rumble, through WrestleMania, through Backlash, and now I feel like this did end at Saturday night's main event, just the way it ended. I feel like this rivalry is officially done. I did predict correct in Damian Priest winning, however, the way he won, and Jesse Ventura could back me up on this one, was not ideal. He just walked out the cage, and I didn't like the ending whatsoever. However, the match itself was incredible, in my opinion. These two were locked in a cage. They had nothing but two steel chairs that Drew McIntyre brought in before the match started, and they went absolutely ham. There were superplexes. They were fighting on top of the cage. Drew McIntyre was trying to hit a Claymore on Damian Priest and win in the same way he did at WrestleMania. This definitely felt like a ending of a rivalry, and I couldn't have asked for a better match. It's just the ending really brings it down for me, and once again the commercials as well, but the crowd was really into this one. Again, you could feel the hatred these two had for each other, especially with Damian Priest. He damn near killed Drew McIntyre. Damian Priest didn't even try to pin Drew McIntyre. He just walked out, even though it was obvious that Drew McIntyre was going to get down for the 1, 2, 3. So that was a bit weird on why Damian Priest decided to open the door. But other than that, it was a crazy match. By far the best one on the night, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. As for where these guys go next, I could see Damian Priest, now that he basically won the feud, in the sense that he won the final match between the two, as for, at least for now, he could be in the United States Championship picture. However, just because he just got into that picture, I feel like the best route for Damian Priest to go would be to go back to Monday Night Raw and feud for the IC Championship, which is currently held by one of his former teammates in Dominic Mysterio. That could create a nice storyline with Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio kind of going at it. That's where I see Damian Priest going. He gets drafted to Raw, feuds with Dominic for the IC title. As for Drew McIntyre, I think this was a way to write Drew McIntyre off for at least until the end of the year. We know he's been dealing with injuries already, and this was kind of probably WWE's way of saying, you know what, let's just take Drew McIntyre off. Let's make Damian Priest look strong in the process and have Drew McIntyre heel. I'm pretty sure he couldn't even turn his head all the way left or right or something like that. It was kind of a gnarly injury for sure. So he's heading to the doctor's table. Damian Priest, I feel like, is heading to the mid card over on Raw. Next up, we got John Cena versus R-Truth, non-title match. And after watching this match, it was everything it needed to be. Like, I really wanted R-Truth and John Cena to put on a banger. They did it at Capital Punishment, but like, just looking back, it just wasn't going to happen. These guys are like, R-Truth is above 50. John Cena is almost 50. These two were not going to put on a spectacle. So the next best option was what they did here. This was R-Truth. Literally, he is the embodiment of fans, right? He came out to John Cena's music. He was wearing a Ron Cena merchandise. I think even he broke John Cena's character mid entrance, which was pretty fun. He was going against John Cena, who is just oblivious to the fact that the fans still care about him. This was basically a squash match, right? With R-Truth hitting John Cena's signature moves. That's literally all that happened. They took it out to ringside. John Cena threw him into the ring post, brought him back in the ring, hit him with the AA, you know, and then R-Truth, he did fight back again with John Cena's signatures, but like, it wasn't really must watch, but it did mean something in the bigger picture because John Cena was about to hit R-Truth with the title, but he kind of second guessed himself and he gave the title back to the ref, which kind of shows that, you know, it's long-term storytelling, right? When he's face to face with a fan, when he's face to face with the fan, which obviously is R-Truth, his one big supporter, someone that supports him no matter what, he gets the sense of, what am I doing? Is this wrong? Like, but it didn't matter because he still low blowed R-Truth in the end to win, even though he probably didn't need to do that. Let's be honest here. Yeah, and R-Truth loses just like I predicted. John Cena wins. Face turn is definitely coming. You could sense it. You could definitely sense it because of the fact that he second guessed himself when he was about to do what he did to Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton to R-Truth. It was a great match in terms of storytelling for sure. I don't even think it hit 5 minutes, but like, again, just storyline wise, it made it really better. The crowd made it amazing as well. They were really behind R-Truth. They really got the memo to boo John Cena. So I really love that as well. Just like the vibe of this match was special. As for where these guys go next, John Cena we'll talk about later on. R-Truth, he'll be back to his backstage moments, his comedy moments. I don't expect him being into the John Cena story anymore. Maybe he could be still supporting John Cena even though he did lose. Maybe he's the straw that breaks the camel's back and kind of snaps John Cena out of his phase. Overall, good match for what it's worth. And finally, we have the main event of Saturday night's main event in Logan Paul versus Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. And this was a disappointment. And it isn't for the reason you guys think. This was a match that happened way too late into the broadcast. This was a match that I feel like Triple H told Jey Uso and Logan Paul, like, okay, you guys got 10 minutes, hit your finishing moves, that's it. The match is going to end. John Cena is going to come out. Cody Rhodes is going to come out. That's all you guys got to do, okay? Just do your finishing moves. Don't try to flesh out the match. Just go into it. Because it was obviously these guys were on a time crunch. I mean, they didn't get any time to flesh out their moves, to flesh out the match. Like, they just went right into their finishing moves. The super kick, the frog splash, the pulverizer. It was... I didn't like this match, personally. And the commercials made it even worse. It was like Logan Paul and Jey Uso started the match, like, for 2 minutes. Then a 5-minute commercial. Then 2 minutes back to the ending. And Logan Paul is defeated. It was that quick. It was like a snap of the fingers. Not only did the commercials bring this down, but the fact that they were on a time crunch also brought this down as well. Like, you could tell they were rushing. You could tell they didn't do the moves that they wanted to. Not a good main event. Again, not the worst on the card, but it wasn't main event caliber. The steel cage match should have been the main event. Like, let's be honest here. But even then, they would have been on a time crunch too, so yeah, I don't know how that would have worked out. Again, besides from the fact that it was so short and there were commercials, it was a match that showcased Logan Paul's athletic ability and Jey Uso's ability. I feel like this was one of Jey Uso's better matches in my opinion. And it also had Logan Paul not lose cleanly, which makes me believe that he's not done with the World Heavyweight Championship just yet. Speaking of which, let's go into what's next for these two. Jey Uso and Logan Paul. Now, before this match started, we had a backstage moment between John Cena and Jey Uso. And John Cena was like, wouldn't it be something? Wouldn't it really ruin wrestling if Logan Paul, who's a YouTuber that everyone hates, is the top of the food chain for Monday Night Raw, is the World Heavyweight Champion? And that really made me think that Logan Paul might actually win this match. But then I thought realistically, and I was like, Cody Rhodes is coming back. And yes, he did. Cody Rhodes did come back. I know he was in Epic Universe in Florida. just a few days before or like a day before, so I knew he was coming to Florida, right? He was in Florida. This event was in Florida. It was going to happen, and I realized that as the match went on. When John Cena did interfere to cost Jey Uso the championship, Cody Rhodes came out, stopped John Cena from doing that, and then that distracted Logan Paul, and it allowed Jey Uso to pick up the W. Confirmed that Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso will take on Logan Paul and John Cena at Money in the Bank in a tag team match, which honestly is the right move in terms of storytelling. I would have liked John Cena have like an opponent, a dream match, so to say, with someone that didn't really need much build up, but like this would have been the next best thing, right? Have Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso, get them something to do. Logan Paul and John Cena, two of the biggest heels in the business. Well, this will definitely get John Cena booed, if anything, you know? So this was the right move by WWE to really get the universe to hate John Cena. That's where they're going next. I don't need to predict anything. That's where they're going next. So yeah, that was my whole Saturday night's main event prediction for the May 2025 version. If you guys enjoyed, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.